Because of why I search the deep through endless nights, no time to sleep. The call inside I can't deny. I'll find the light because of why.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into a real economic mystery, the Plaza Accord. This was a massive deal meant to stabilize the world economy. But for Japan, it kicked off a chain reaction that ended in, well, decades of economic agony. So how did a deal that was supposed to help end up leading to Japan's infamous lost decade? Let's get into it. Okay, so it all comes down to this one kind of crazy question. Picture this, you are absolutely crushing it. You're an economic superstar and the whole world wants to buy your stuff. So why? And this is the big question. Why would you ever agree to a deal that makes all your products more expensive? It just doesn't make sense, right? It sounds like you'd be shooting yourself in the foot. But in 1985, that is exactly what Japan did. All right, so to really get this, we've got to rewind to the early 80s. This was a time of a serious economic showdown, an unbalanced friendship between two major players. So in the 1980s, Japan was an absolute economic powerhouse. I mean, after World War II, they pulled off what everyone calls the economic miracle. You had companies like Sony, Toyota. They weren't just rebuilding, they were taking over. They were making these amazing high-quality cars and electronics, and Americans, in particular, could not get enough of them. Japan was basically an unstoppable export machine. But at the same time, something else was happening. The US dollar was getting super strong. For regular folks in America, this was awesome. A new Toyota, a Walkman, it was all a bargain, unbelievably cheap. But if you were an American company, it was a nightmare. Your stuff suddenly looked way too expensive next to this flood of amazing and now super cheap Japanese products. And look, this wasn't just some abstract economic problem you'd see on a chart. No, this had a massive human cost. We're talking about the American Rust Belt, the industrial heartland. Factories were shutting down. People were losing their jobs in steel, coal, you name it. And you can bet the political pressure in Washington was boiling over. Everyone was saying, we have to do something about Japan. So this brings us to the big choice, the Accord or a trade war. It was basically an offer Japan couldn't refuse. The pressure from the US was getting intense, with politicians screaming for tariffs and quotas on Japanese goods. Japan was cornered. They had to choose, make a deal or get into a nasty trade war that could completely cut them off from their #1 customer. And, this whole situation highlights a really important concept in Japanese politics called Gaiatsu. It literally just means external pressure. And for a long time, pressure from the US was a huge factor in how Japan made its decisions. By 1985, that pressure was absolutely off the charts. So here's the bottom line. Japan was stuck between a rock and a hard place. They did not want to sign the Plaza Accord. It was a choice between two bad options. Option A, cooperate, let your currency get stronger, which hurts your own companies, but hey, you keep selling stuff to the US. Option B, do nothing and get slammed with huge tariffs. Basically, start a trade war you probably can't win. So what did they do? They picked option A. On that day in 1985, the big economic players, the US, Japan, West Germany, France, and the UK, all met at the famous Plaza Hotel in New York. The plan was simple. Work together to bring down the super strong US dollar. And for Japan, this meant one thing was about to happen. Their currency, the yen, was about to shoot through the roof. And now for the unintended consequences, a bubble and a lost decade. You know that saying, be careful what you wish for? Well, the Accord worked a little too well. The yen got so strong, so fast, that it was choking Japan's export economy. And the government's desperate attempts to fix that problem, well, it kicked off a disaster nobody saw coming. Okay, let's just walk through this because it's like a perfect row of dominoes. First, the Plaza Accord gets signed. Then the yen skyrockets, which crushes Japanese exports. So to help out all those struggling companies, the Bank of Japan basically panics and slashes interest rates down to almost nothing. Suddenly, money is practically free to borrow. This cheap cash floods the entire country. And where does all that money go? Straight into stocks and real estate, creating this absolutely massive, insane bubble. And then what all bubbles do? It burst. And that's what sparked Japan's lost decade. Yeah, in Japan, they call this the baburu keiki, the bubble economy. And to give you an idea of how wild things got, there was a point where the tiny patch of land under the Imperial Palace in Tokyo was said to be worth more than all of the real estate in the entire state of California. Just think about that. It was just pure excess, all built on this foundation of cheap money that was about to give way. So this brings up a good question, right? A lesson in cause and effect, and why Japan's experience was so different. I mean, West Germany signed the accord too, so why didn't their economy blow up? Why was Japan's story so uniquely catastrophic? It all comes down to one thing: just how much Japan depended on the United States. And these numbers tell the whole story. Just look at this. Around 1985, a whopping 34% of everything Japan exported went to the US. 34%. Now look at West Germany, just 8%. See the difference? For Japan, a stronger yen wasn't just a headache, it was a 5-alarm fire threatening their entire economic model. And that explains why their central bank reacted the way they did, with panic. So let's just wrap this all up. What's the main takeaway here? First, Japan agreed to the Plaza Accord to dodge a trade war with its biggest and most important customer. It was a strategic move, not them just giving up. And this is the really crucial part. The accord itself didn't cause the bubble. It was Japan's own domestic response, slashing those interest rates, that really lit the fuse. The accord was just the first domino in a chain that led straight to the lost decade. Which leaves us with one final, really interesting question to chew on. Was the Plaza Accord some kind of targeted attack by the US to hobble an economic rival? Or was it more like a domino that Japan, backed into a corner, ended up helping to push over itself? The truth is probably somewhere in the middle, but it's fascinating to think about. So, what's your take? Was it a calculated move or just a tragic series of mistakes? I really want to know what you think, so drop a comment below. And hey, if you enjoyed this little trip through economic history, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.